Hey everybody, welcome to the second annual Teams User Group podcast here at vNext. I'm Scott Rendell, and I'm surrounded here by some board members and some LCOs. And from a format standpoint, we're just going to let everybody introduce themselves, and then we're going to talk a little bit about what's going on with the Teams User Group, and we will start over there.
Where am I looking?
Anywhere.
Okay.
That way.
Thanks, Scott. I'm Terry Lyons. I'll be running, I guess, the Denver group here, or Colorado group. And wish I could stick around to learn more about what I've agreed to do, but I'll catch the recording.
All right, Terry, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm James Fox. I'm actually going to be working with the Cleveland User Group as an LCO.
Thanks, James.
Great. Wendell Martin. I'm one of the board members and also take care of the Philadelphia User Group. I've been with the group for a number of years. I forget how long, but good to see some of the new ones coming on here board here as well.
Excited. So.
Hey, I'm Chris Hinch. I run the Greenville, South Carolina chapter. Last year, that was my first time being here at Comms and doing Teams User Groups. We've been doing it for a year, and we've had a lot of solid traction.
Hey, Teams fans. This is Aaron Romeo, local chapter organizer for Austin, Texas.
Coming to you live.
And also director of communications for the Tug board. So happy to be here.
And you guys know me. I'm on the board, and I'm also running the New York City chapter. And last but not least,
my name is Eric Marcy. I'm the guy running this podcast, and I'm also the Director of Content and Technology for the Teams User Group. And also you'll see me in Columbus.
So Wendell, I don't think people actually know the history of the Teams User Group. And since you're our longest running member, at least at the table,
Okay.
Can you give us a little history?
I can give the history that I know about.
That's fine.
So I'm not sure how many years ago Adam started it here in Denver. No, where did it start? Here
Cincinnati.
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 Okay. Anyway, it continued to grow, made a board, got going, I don't know, up to 20-some chapters that were live. And through the years, it kept growing. And as different sponsors came on, we were able to do some interesting things. Then COVID came along, and in-person meeting. The history of the user group is all in person. We wanted to get people together, both for learning and for just collaborating. Just what did you do about this? So it's a great learning experience, but then in person was shut down. So we did a little bit of virtual events for 2 years there, but not near the impact that the in-person events, but kept it going a little bit. And now we're rebuilding. How many sites are we up to now?
Well, if we get all of them implemented, it should be 27.
I think
It was 24 and then plus 3.
Yeah.
Yeah, so 27.
so. I think as far as a number of locations, we're now above COVID, and number of attendees for each location is coming up. So we're recovering and actually expanding beyond where we were. So it's great to see it get rolling again.
Introduce yourself. So we got another member here coming in.
Good afternoon, guys. Sorry about the tardiness. This way. Okay. Chad McRainer, Cloud Revolution CEO, co-founder. Been doing communications collaboration for, 20 years, way too long. So, yeah.
We were just talking with Wendell about the history of the user group, and now how coming out of COVID, we had 20 chapters. Now we're going to be onboarding up to 27 now, and I think that's a testament to all of the people that are going back to work, getting back out, right? And that's why having these in-person events are so important. Is to help bolster that. But if you look at our map, we've got a large area of the country that we don't cover, and I think we've all heard it both at this conference, at Enterprise Connect, and in various customer meetings, and even some of our in-person events that they would like a virtual one, right? Just in case they miss it, can't attend, or what have you. And it's always been our position to not do that. We wanted to focus on the in-person event. So that said, I think that probably Q3, we will kick off a limited version of an online Teams user group. Okay, it'll be an abbreviated intro deck, something super quick, right? Just to say, hey, welcome, here we are. And then we'll just do the what's new in Teams. That's the reoccurring deck that we do every quarter, thanks to Eric, keeping up with that. And I think that'll go well. I don't expect people to sit online for an entire 3-hour user group meeting like we would have in person. But I think a 30 to 60 minute online once a quarter would be well. And I think we could I think we could pick up some additional people that may not have known that there was an in-person event near them, because we'll definitely talk about that, right? And the various chapters and where they are, and we'll see where it goes from there. Just for you folks out there, one of the things we're thinking about is a persistent chat, right? So a community, bringing you guys in as the ability to chat with other people, not just in your local chapter, but now across chapters. So the board and I have talked about it, and we're going to implement some new things, and we're really looking forward to this. Comments from around the...
Yeah, I mean, I have a comment towards the idea of how to have an effective or productive meeting, and that is to get kind of the one-way or single direction information out of the way asynchronously. So this idea of a virtual presentation of the what's new in Teams, I think that will open the floor when we actually meet to be collaborative, to be creative, and talk about, at the end of the day, we're there to support Teams users and implementers. They have specific questions and challenges and problems, and by talking through, hey, what's new in Teams, and presenting that, we're able to spend more time talking to consumers and facilitators about their actual needs and where they're having heartaches. So I think it's a great idea, so more to come.
I was just going to say quickly on the whole, being in person. I think that there is with everybody working remote during COVID, a lot of people, I don't know, the percentages are high with the amount of people that did not go back to the office. I think if you think about the ways you've learned in your early career, it was by looking over the shoulder at the guy next to you, or going back to the computer room and watching the guy that was senior figure out what he was doing. I don't think anybody in the younger generation right now understands any of that. So having a place to go to learn about this versus sitting at home and not having your peers to communicate with and have a group that can reach out to, I think that's super important. So I think there's an opportunity there to bring in some newer folks that are interested in technology to learn about what we're doing, because I think if you look around the table, the people that have done this are the people that have done it forever. And so we need to start figuring out how to get some new folks into it. So I think that's super important.
So one of the things, I'm sorry, were you going to say that?
I was just going to go over what a user group looks like.
Sure, I can do that. So, and I was actually going to kind of talk about that, so that works out well. So what you can expect when you come to one of these events is 3 PowerPoints and food. Now, I want to focus on the food for a minute, right? So talk about the stuff that's worked, stuff that hasn't worked. I know for me, I did sandwiches and salads, kind of well received, very expensive, right? I started going to Magnolia Bakery and getting their set pudding, the banana pudding cups. Hugely successful. Like, those things were gone, right?
Carbs.
Yeah, right. And the cookies too. So we were just doing desserts.
The attention span.
Yeah, well, yeah, right, exactly. Yeah, so yeah, the sugar high either put them to sleep, or they were running up and down the aisles, like 2-year-olds. So you can have food. I've had to settle on pizza. It seems to be about what everybody can tolerate, and it's something easy that I'm not taking home. So it's usually gone. Anybody else?
One thing that's been really successful for Columbus really has been Chipotle. People are vegan, vegetarian, or there's carnivore guys. You build your own bowl, build your own taco, burrito, whatever, and the downside of Chipotle is it's expensive. So at a certain point, once we hit a certain scale for Columbus, we have to look at other options. But at least for right now, where we're at, it's been great.
Now, how do you facilitate that?
So it's just Chipotle catering. You go online, you say how many people, how many meat things you want, and then they.
So it's their catering, because I know you did something different in Austin.
Yeah, we tend to be a little weirder, a little more.
No, that's just you.
Economic. That's just me. Yeah. We don't want to see any food waste, so we do a service where we let the attendee pick and choose exactly what they want. And of course, the social unspoken contract is if you order something with mustard and mayo that nobody else wants, that you show up. But of course, you're not showing up to the Teams user group because of the food. It's because of the value and content and education. But what we do in Austin and some other places is we do a group order with a budget accordingly. People pick and choose exactly what they want, and it's labeled when it arrives.
Okay.
And so there typically tends to be no waste at that moment.
Now, how do you facilitate that?
Well, if you want me to use a brand name, I'm sure I'll get a sponsorship.
how do you contact these people so that they know to order?
I got you.
Because it seems like logistically that might be a little.
Well, that's really not hard. After they register, we send out a DoorDash group link and say get on and order, and if they don't do it in a couple days, we pester them on LinkedIn, and then we hit them on Teams, and then we send them packages in the mail. Just joking about the last word, but the idea is to 100% make sure that we get their order.
Okay.
I was just going to say that, honestly, the food, and I've been to several of these, not for the meals, for the actual user group, but I think that there's a psychological component to doing it that way and having a meal, and people let down their guard, they start talking more and collaborating more. I mean, goes back to when we were all cavemen around the fire, right? And you weren't in fight or flight mode anymore, and you were enjoying a meal. So I think it's beyond where we order from, it's an important aspect of the group to get people to start gelling and speaking with each other.
When we did it in San Francisco, so you guys, this is like me coming around. I'm in Nashville now, but I started the one in San Francisco, and our big thing to get people to come out was the food. I mean, they were there for the content, but the food was also a big draw to come into the city and deal with all that. So we catered Mexican food. But if we had extra, we would go downtown to the BART station, and there were folks out there that would gladly take the food.
Unfortunately,
extra.
yeah, so-
It never went to waste. It was always.
Well, I mean,
Right.
we've tried to. Go ahead.
I do have to say that's kind of funny. It's not surprising for Mexican food with you.
yeah. We had it catered, and then we actually had a group that would go with us after and just have a couple drinks and everything. It was fun. Yeah.
So we tried a few different time slots in Greenville, and what works best for us is we do them in the morning, and we just bring coffee and donuts. I know it's simple, but it works, at least in our area, because I was talking to Aaron earlier, and he was asking me, like, well, what do? We tried let's do late in the afternoon, let's try to do lunch. For my area, I get better attendance if we do it in the morning right after rush hour and have coffee and carbs, and we have good conversations.
I haven't actually tested it so in New York we do 2 to 5 on a Thursday, and I've tried a couple of different locations, but because the Microsoft office is right near the Port Authority, we get a lot of folks coming in from Jersey. It makes it much more convenient for them. I heard it quite loudly when I had it at the Microsoft store on Fifth Avenue. They're like, we got a trek all the way across the city. You don't want to piss off people from Jersey or New York. So back to Microsoft's office we went, and I don't know that. I think the morning wouldn't work for us just because of the commute.
Yeah, but that's what we
end
talking about earlier.
we end our day at 5. Everybody pretty much ends their day at 5. So they're 5 o'clock rolls. Everybody's out of the door, walk across the street, and they're gone. But I mean, I'd love to try some other time slots. I just don't know. Don't know that they're going to work.
All I was getting at is that every area is going to be different. That's more what I was getting at. It's going to be because every city is different. So it's like, I know James is new, and so it's like just play with the time frames. So if you're like, oh, I don't know if if you want to do a user group in your area and you can't commit to a certain time frame, do what works for you and what works for your area, because Eric's times might be different than mine. That might be different from your. I mean, everybody's times are going to be different. Just do what works for you.
We would pay attention to like what sporting events are happening in the area, because we may not get anybody on this day if this is happening. So we would think about time. We think about rush hour traffic, where people are coming from. If they get here, are they going to want to, just there's a lot of thought that goes into the time, at least when we schedule.
Holidays and school breaks. And
Is the weather good today?
Right, yeah.
we don't know what that means in Cleveland. We get like 1 or 2 of those a year. Weather, so.
It's almost like another Seattle.
Now, for our folks online, I am going to talk about the content, but I want to talk about one more thing about the meetings themselves. One thing that I have found successful is by, in my day job, is doing partner events on the same day as the Teams user group. Now, I know that not all of us can do that, but for me, when I work with my partners, I can get them to come in the morning, and then I've got a pre-canned set of people that would most likely stay, right? Especially when we offer them the food. Right? They're like, oh, well, I'll stay for the food and see what this is all about. They may never come back, but at least they were there for the one time. So that seems to work for me. I don't know if that would work for any of you guys or not. But under the content, so when you come to one of these, like I said, there's 3 PowerPoints. All right, there's there's an intro deck, which basically just tells you who we are. The Teams user group is a 501c6 nonprofit organization, labeled as an industry trade association. So we're not selling anything. We're not making any money. We do have sponsors that help pay for the food and a few other things, administratively speaking. And so we go over that and we share who our sponsors with. Sometimes our sponsors come to these meetings and you'll get a chance to meet them and have a conversation with them. And then from there, we because we're a Teams user group, and of course this came out of OC and then Link and then Skype and now Teams. There's a What's New in Teams presentation that's quarterly. It just lets you know what's coming up next. And then finally, we have a pretty deep technical conversation for our last presentation, and it generally surrounds something having to do with Teams, whether it's Loop or Teams or the admin dashboard or how to implement voice. Copilot's a hot topic right now. A lot of people are asking about it. So when you show up at one of these meetings, these are the kinds of things you can expect. And of course, under all of it is the collaboration, the networking, and the people, and that's really what we're all about. Final comments from everybody? Eric? Nothing from Eric? James?
Yeah, I just want to say my introduction to the user group was I was attending as one of the, Momentum's been a national sponsor. So I started going to them, and I realized very quickly the value that there was for the community in coming together. And I will say that one of the reasons I was voluntold by my boss that maybe I should consider starting the Cleveland group, and expressed those concerns to Eric when I went to Columbus meeting, what it entails, and Joe Pilarcio runs the Detroit group that I've gone to several times. And I can't tell you enough how willing everybody is from an LCO standpoint to guide you and help you and let you know what you're getting into if you are considering that you're not in an area where there is an active group right now and one should be there. So it's not as big of a lift as you might think, and there is support from the community of the LCOs and the board. So consider it if you're not in an area where there's an active chapter, and if you are, you should go because it is valuable, very valuable.
And I'll make one comment here as well is, thank you to our sponsors. Without their sponsors, all these chapters that that we have today and that we're adding would not be possible without you guys. Not even just our sponsors, but also our local chapter organizers. Nobody here is making money doing it. This is all a volunteer basis, and we're here to help the Teams community grow in their local areas. So again, thank you for everybody that comes to our sessions. Thank you, sponsors. Thank you to our LCOs.
Yeah, echoing that, thanks for everybody that comes. One of the things, just bouncing off of what you were saying, Scott, the big thing, the content is great, but I think the biggest thing is you often have end users, IT people, vendors, partners, the whole Microsoft employees, you got the whole list, and somebody says, I ran into this problem with implementing whatever, and often somebody in the room will say, oh yeah, we did that too, and here's what we do to fix it, or I know who can take care of it for you, and just connecting people is maybe some of the most valuable things of the each meetup there.
Yeah, I actually had a customer and a partner hook up at one of my meetups and got started a relationship and got some stuff fixed for their tenant. It was great.
Yeah, I mean, the last one we just had, we had a new person. They were looking to move into Teams from a meeting room perspective, and so I got a client out of it. Wasn't trying to do that, but having just the conversation in the room. Because when you do virtual, I want to go back to what you were saying earlier. Virtual, people are just paying attention. They're not asking, or they're not the conversations go nowhere. And so when we do it
virtually,
yeah, exactly.
They just sit back and listen and not be part of the actual
right.
discussion.
And because the group, the board takes care of all the presentations, so it gets less work on the LCOs. I get the deck and I'll look through it to make sure I understand it, and then now I'm presenting on it. And most of the time, I keep up with what's new anyways, because that's just what I do for my job. But just knowing the content going into the room and not having to create it, it saves you a lot of time, right? And so kind of echoing on what you were saying, it's not a big lift to be an LCO, right? It's really not.
Yeah, I think part of the universal challenge with Teams as a hybrid work tool is getting the remote participant to be as co-collaborative or co-creative as somebody in the room. And in a Teams user group, you're not hiding behind some wiggling avatar. And the good news is that our ideas can actually coalesce. And that's really, the decks are meant to be designated things to bring up, but they're discussion points, and it's really open to the floor to have some feedback and to give some response about, I like that, I don't like that, I don't understand that, why would I do this? Understanding the why is often more important than the how. And so I think that the in-person collaboration is very valuable for that, and the more that we can do to facilitate the back and forth by getting some of this content out of the way, the better. So I'm just super excited, super proud to be involved, and definitely willing to listen to anybody's ideas on the content that they wish to be covered.
I think what I would say is to clarify, I mentioned Nashville in the beginning, and there isn't an official event yet. So what we're doing is trying to find a location somewhere in Middle Tennessee, Nashville, Franklin, Brentwood, area. So I'm going to be tracking down partners and potential locations for that. So just if anyone is wondering, how do I get to the Nashville group, you probably will have a hard time doing that right now. But once we get a location nailed down and we can find a spot, we'll be able to get that going. I just want to clarify, if someone was listening, heard Nashville, I'm in, and they go to the website and can't get in, let's go.
And that's a great segue, but you have a comment?
Yeah, I was just going to say something too about, I think we maybe didn't talk about who should come to these meetings. I know we mentioned who does come to the meetings, but one of the things that I've noticed is that we can get in an echo chamber real quick as technical people with just having the engineers that are super familiar with things. I will pick on and promote Joe again in Detroit. There is a wide swath of people from all different backgrounds that show up to that meeting, different size companies, different roles. There's a lady whose job is just public relations for the city of Detroit that shows up to every one of their meetings, and she's figuring out what can I do to figure out these use cases and better utilize Teams for us to communicate with the public. So again, if you're considering going, you are a technical person, or maybe you're trying to implement Teams at your company, maybe pull along some of your key stakeholders and let them come to a meeting and throw their ideas out there in front of people that have experienced it, done it, and been there.
Yeah, employee experience folks that are focused on productivity, the customer journey, they all have different slants on what communication should be and how that should interoperate. And so we need to encourage not just Teams administrators to come, but users, different departments that touch, the way that we communicate in a productive capacity. So we have folks that show up that are business intelligence orientated folks, learning management system orientation folks. So it's all good to have that large swath.
So yeah, and I think that's all great talking points, and we could probably talk for hours on this stuff. The point is, you don't have to be a technical person to come to a Teams user group. You don't even have to use Teams, to be perfectly honest. If you're curious about it, want to find out about it, or just find someone to hook up with to learn it, whether it be a partner or a sponsor, what have you. Bring a friend, come on out, have some food, break some bread with us. It's generally about a 3-hour commitment on your part, plus travel time, depending on where you are. Love to see you out there. Tell your friends. Anyway, he is networking, right, and the collaboration behind it. So come on out, and for us, we'll do this again next year. All right. Thanks for listening. Take care.
Thanks all.